Welcome everyone to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. In Hebrew, our name is Abitchonistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong, strategic, national security-oriented policies. Our movement consists of more than 20,000 people in Israel, including many reserve officers and operators from all branches of the Israel Defense establishment, who believe that strong national security and staunch Zionism are necessary for Israel to be the eternal homeland of the Jewish people. Thank you to all of our viewers and supporters for tuning into these war briefings. It is so important that we're able to share these updates and analysis with you. We are joined today by Ronit Farkash on the Gaza border, and she's going to be accompanied in a minute by the head of the Sdot HaNeged municipality, Tamir Idan. And we're very much looking forward to a discussion with Tamir about what the communities on the Gaza border are doing at this time. And as our briefing progresses, we hope to be able to get Major General HaKohen on the line for an update from the north. But we'll start off with Ronit. Ronit, you're no stranger to our briefings. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, what can you tell us is the climate and the feeling right now in the communities on the border?
Hey, so hi everyone. It's good to be here again. This time as a resident back in my hometown. I wanted to let you know that the only thing, I'm also the head of the municipal community of Moshav Tkuma. It's like a small mayor. And as I tell my residents, the only thing that is certain is that there is major uncertainty around. We have no idea when we will be back. Every month we get delayed by another month. It started in October, they said after 2 weeks, then a month, then December. At the minute, our date is January 31st, but it's not going to be, probably the end of February. And we are also dependent on a school because our school is in the Kibbutz Saad. Kibbutz Saad is 2 kilometers from the Gaza border, and you cannot have any educational systems from 0 to 4 kilometers. So we need to build a new school, a school I'm talking about since 1st grade until 9th grade. And to build a new school could take 2 months, but we have to build it with shelters, and the shelters give an additional month. That means that maybe March or April, all the residents will be able to come back. It seems hopeful, but bear in mind that since October 7th, all of the families that have been evacuated either to Eilat in the south or to the north are all actually have put their children inside of educational systems already. And nobody wants to take out their kids for 2 months, May, June, maybe a bit of July, for schools to transfer them. They have already transferred into 2 different educational systems. So now also this system is a major problem. So this is the first problem. We don't know when to come back, and if we can come back even in mid or end of February, we will not have a schooling system, which is a problem. So it's a lot of uncertainty. There's no educational systems. We have a lot of the elderly. I'm talking about ages 75, 80 that are already wanting to come back. There's a limit, to how long you can be out of your house, even if it's in a hotel. But they're coming back, and there is no medical assistance. Kupat Cholim, how do I say it, Moshe, in English? There's no
the local clinics. But Ronit, I want to cut you off for a second if I can. While we're waiting for Tamir to join us, we have the great privilege now of being joined by Major General Garen HaKohen. It's a great honor to have you with us, General. I've been trying for a number of weeks now to get you to join the briefing, and very appreciative of your time right now. And we have a large following of American, Canadian, British followers and Zionists from across the world waiting to hear from you. And if I can just start and ask you a very simple question, General. In 2005, you oversaw the disengagement from Gaza. So my question is, have you been waiting for the day or anticipating the need for Israel to re-enter Gaza? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Can you hear?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Of course, yes. In a war game that was taking place in April in the General Staff, about the day after the disengagement, I told Chief of Staff, listen, what we can learn from that war game is that after this engagement will be accomplished, they will go ahead to be better in all ways to threaten Israel, and we will not have a kind of appropriate response because we cannot afford ourselves to cross the border every month, because after the disengagement, it will be considered as a casus belli with missiles to not only Ashkelon, but to Tel Aviv. And therefore, go to Prime Minister, inform him that we are entering to a very strategic trap. What was the reaction of Chief of Staff? He warned me that I'm speaking politically and not professionally. I told him among all the members here, I'm the only one speaking professionally. It was clear, absolutely. And it is absolutely clear, and I wrote about that research, what will be the outcome if, I wish it will never happen, Israel will accept the idea of President Biden for two-state solution with border in the Green Line. No way to defend Israel in this narrow strip of the seashore, and the situation will be much worse than what we suffered in 7th of October.
Now, I've heard you speak about the peace deal that Israel has with Egypt, but looking at what's happening now in Gaza, is peace possible in the future with Gaza, or does it always need to be this military strong operation there to keep the terrorism low?
All my attitude to peace is according to what every Jew praying every morning. We are saying in the blessing of God brought the sun this morning, creating the sun, creating the light, and creating the peace. יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. It means a dialectical message. In one aspect, on one side, if you are expecting that peace will be something that all Americans speaking about, everlasting peace, stable, forget about it, because we are declaring the awareness that even the sun is not fixed. The uprising of the sun every morning is a struggle of God. On the other side, if we are thinking that the sun every morning is just due to natural laws and not really dependent upon God's will, then we are telling that we must look upon the situation of peace. Peace is absolutely breakable phenomena. No way to keep an everlasting peace, even in Europe between France and Germany. Forget about it. Once I'll tell you, the head of BND, it is the Mossad of Germany, was my guest in the Golan Heights. It was 1996. I accompanied him for exploration of Golan Heights along all day. At the end of the day, he told me, Dr. Geiger was his name. I must warn you, forget about making new Middle East according to the dreams like what's going on with Schengen Accord in Europe and the European Union. Forget about it. In Europe, until 1945, so many have been killed. Now, all nations are taking a rest. To that position of taking a rest, they are calling peace. Meanwhile, they have a conflict about nothing. if they'll have a new conflict, they'll fight exactly as in the past. Don't believe in the message of a new human being. Of course, not to believe in Fukuyama declaration, the end of history, that he declares that after the collapse of USSR, before 5 years, I visited Germany with a conference with those working with the chancellor, and they declare about the end of history.
Wow. Let me ask you, you mentioned the Golan Heights. You're a resident of the Golan Heights. You were the head of the IDF Northern Command. How do you see things playing out with Hezbollah? What can we anticipate happening?
Actually, it is a very severe strategic embarrassment for Israel, because first of all, the threat is very serious. Without huge investment, Hezbollah succeeded to uproot and to uproot the people in the border and to make more than 60,000 Israelis just refugees, far away from their home. And due to that circumstances, they are demanding, of course, justifiable, that if Hezbollah will not be heated and enforced to take a withdrawal from the border, they are not coming back home. Actually, every day, Hezbollah launching rockets, directing anti-tank missiles to civilians' apartments, farms, and due to the fact that they are not at home, we are losing almost no human casualties. But in that circumstances, which family will dare to bring back children to go up there? So we must change the situation. On the other side, no way to change the situation without a huge war that President Biden trying to prevent. Therefore, he's trying to achieve the same goal without fighting, just by bringing the Hezbollah to agree to withdrawal. But anyhow, the withdrawal is not that they are just not at all existing as a threat. They will go far away, 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, and they are still a threat. And a war against Hezbollah is not only war in Lebanon. Hezbollah today using forces in Syria, in northern Syria, in the front in the Golan. So actually, it is a huge front guided by Iran, equipped and directed by Iran. It means that Israel alone cannot really bring a war with a satisfied end without a huge support of the United States.
Thank you so much, General. I want to ask you one final question before we go back to Ronit on the Gaza border. You have lived through, you have fought in many wars and many conflicts of Israel. And we throw around the term existential threat. How do you think the threat and the concern in Israel is now compared to previous wars that you've experienced?
It is a really existential threat. We must reconceptualize the very concept of existential threat. Because if we are comparing it to what happened in 1948 with invasion of Egyptian troops, Syrian troops, Egyptian troops almost arrived to Tel Aviv, this is not the situation now. Hezbollah and Hamas can invade Israel, but not really make the invasion to long range. They will not arrive to Tel Aviv, but we are really in a different situation of existential threat. Like, I'm comparing it to someone got a disease of AIDS, for example. Nobody can recognize that it is an existential disease, but it is absolutely severe as an existential. So it is another way, another version of existential threat, absolutely different from all what was known in the last century. It is a new threat belonging to the 21st century.
Major General Garen HaKohen, thank you so much for joining us and enlightening our viewers. You are a major force within IDSF Bitronistim here in Israel, so thank you so much.
And all the best, and we are praying and believing that we will get salvation and victory.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. We're going to go back to Rome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's back to us.
Ronit, are you still with us?
I'm still with you, and this time I have for you a big treat.
Fantastic.
We have the head of the regional councils, Dot Negev, Tamir Idan, one of the councils that surround the Gaza border. Gaza border has 5 municipalities around it. And I'd like you to meet Tamir and see exactly, understand what he's facing, all the complexities, also security-wise, also with the evacuated families and everything that's on his head, including government. So take it away, Tamir. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening. Nice to meet you all. I want to start by saying that we're okay, we're strong, we're not miserable. We're dealing the situation very well. It's a very complicated situation, but we've done this before, not in this volume, but we are in control, and we're absolutely going to win this war and rebuild all the things that destroy this bad war. I want to start, but something that we get, I just want to show you the front page that we get 1 year before from the army. This is what they call in Hebrew Tarchish Hayirus. This is what the army thought that could happen here in the extreme way. And it's all saying, it's a lot of papers, and it's all dealing with rockets that are going to fall all over the heads of the families here, because the Iron Dome is not going to be here. So they say to me, prepare to more than 10 direct hits in 1 day, and it's make my stomach very painful. And I wrote a letter to Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. The letter is here, or it can read it, because that is something to the media, and say we're not ready to these things. When you need this and this and this to be prepared, and we didn't get any answer for this letter. And then came 7 October. I want to suggest us all not to call it the Black Shabbat, because I think the Jewish didn't have the place to say something like that. There's no Black Shabbat. There's one black day that fell in Shabbat, and we all get a very big hit on the stomach, and we see things that in all our thoughts and dreams and bad dreams didn't think about 1% from what happens here. And from these days on, we are all make like this in our head and try to think about how to deal in this day of the war, and get the best things to the people that evacuated from their homes and staying in Netanya, Melach, Eilat, and all over the country for education, culture, livings, all the things. And it's very, very complicated. For this time, now we can say that in every place that we have the people, we have a kindergarten, we have school. In this בצורה כזו או אחרת, in some way or another.
Where they are evacuated.
But in the regional council that I'm in charge of, there are 8 communities that inside what they call surrounding Gaza or surrounding Israel, and 8 that outside, there are more than 7 kilometers that still staying in their homes, not evacuated and not getting something or nothing from the government. What's happening now that there's no connection, there's a connection, but no discussion between us and the government of Israel and the army about what the day or what the process that we have to deal to bring the people back home. What I mean to say that from time to time, letters go to the media and talking about Tkuma, okay, the place that Ronit live in, and the residents of Tkuma have to get back to the houses in January 2024. But they didn't talk to us, so they didn't take into consider that the people from kibbutz, from Moshav Tkuma, learning, their children learning in Kibbutz Saad. In Kibbutz Saad, the school that is protected is not going to be open in half a year from now. So we are now building a new school here in this position that we stay in now. It's going to take 2 months or 3 months at least. So how can you talk about getting back home when the school is not ready? How can you talk about getting back home when the military is shooting Gaza and the bombs are in the night here breaking the windows? The young children cannot recognize between the booms of the rockets of Gaza or the booms, the rockets of our army. So it's not a place to live in. And I have to say, in a very sorrow that they disconnected. They didn't understand what's happening here. And I think all the matter now is to getting them back because it's costing money to stay in the hotels. But we have a contrast with the army and the government. They break the contrast, not us. They had a commitment to take care of our life and didn't do that. And in a situation like that, they have a responsibility to get the trust back, because there's no trust now, not in the government and not in the army. And this ball is now in their field, and they're doing the opposite. They're not talking to us. They're talking to the people in not one voice, and the people want to know, where is the time that I'm getting my son back to school? It's going to happen a week from now or half a year from now. When I get home, when I get back to work. But it's happening, and we're talking about that, and nothing changed. So I think
Uncertainty.
That uncertainty, the situation now, it's making the situation very complicated, more than it was before. And we are in the region here. It's a very small region. We're not like a city that have the money and the possibilities to do things, big things. And all the things that we're doing now, it's not with the government. It's with donors of all over the world, Jewish that coming here, Jewish people that come and helping us. And they say, why you need money from us to build a shelter? It's not the community, it's not something that the government should give you. So I don't have a big right answer for that. But it's very lucky that we have you all over the world that helping us here. But as I said the first time, there's a lot of problems here. Social problems, economic problems, education problems. But we know that in the end of the day, we're going to win that and to get back to our community. But we say to the army one thing: give me your word, and I want to trust you now that you finish the threat. They cannot say that till now. I want also to remind that in the last Monday, a missile fell in a synagogue in Kibbutz Saad. When the army say to the people of Kibbutz Saad, you can back home. You can be back home. You can stay in the hotel, but you can be back home. And if the people of Kibbutz Saad were listening to the army, we were now in a big disaster.
I just want to add that the rocket fell in their synagogue in the kibbutz.
The Hamas published that big win. We destroy a synagogue inside Kibbutz Ada, inside the surrounding Gaza. But why the Iron Dome didn't stop this missile? Why? Because what say the commander 2 days ago, don't want to say his name, that there was a kalkalat tachmoshet, I would say it in English.
Ammunition economy.
So maybe the people in Kibbutz are not in their homes, so it's okay that missiles going to fall and inside the kibbutz and destroy a synagogue in the middle of the day. So things like that.
I just wanted to say we're unfortunately out of time. And Tamir Idan, we can hear the hurt and the pain in your voice. And I sit comfortably in the Merkaz. My community is, operating like the rest of the communities in central Israel. And it's very hard to imagine what you're going through and how hard it is to lead a whole region when you want to talk about, planting nice trees and inspiring your children, but instead you have to worry about just safety and security. It has to be very hard. So thank you for sharing that with us. Maybe
we're going to win this, but
I'm sorry?
We're going to win.
We're going to win. Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us, for sharing that. Ronit, of course, thank you for bringing us Tamir and for everything that you are doing down there on the Gaza border. Thank you, of course, to all of our viewers and participants. And I just want to share that this is our last war briefing of 2023. And as we close the program today, I really just want to thank again all of our viewers and supporters for tuning in. I know your time is very precious, and allowing us at IDSF to spend 30 minutes with you during these broadcasts is not something that we take for granted. Life here in Israel has been anything but normal since October 7th, as you've just heard. When we began these briefings a few days after the brutal massacre, there was a number of times when we needed to delay or pause the broadcast because of rocket fire, needing to get down on the ground or go into our bomb shelters. And now, here in Israel, on an almost daily basis, we turn on the radio and listen to the devastating announcements of fallen soldiers. On a number of occasions, I myself and other guests have walked into these briefings straight from attending a funeral or rushed out afterward to make it in time. Our goal with these briefings has been to share analysis and a deep understanding of what is happening in Israel beyond the headlines. Much of our viewership is very educated and knowledgeable, so thank you so much for continuing to challenge us to bring you the best content that we can. We have also tried to share with you different voices from Israel in different aspects of this world. Most of all, our primary goal throughout these briefings has been to build a community of informed, educated, and passionate Zionists. I do hope we are succeeding, and we'll look forward to being back with you in 2024 on Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time for our next briefing. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.